Hi, this is Mr. West, and today we're doing a tutorial video for converting fractions, and this is from mathdrills.com. Make sure to check out Mathdrills. They have tons of great resources available, tons of great worksheets. This is one of them, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing here. It says fill in the missing values, use part-to-part ratios. So that's for the ratio section. I'll talk about that when I get there, but first let's talk about the basics. Number one, we have the fraction 7/10, and we want to convert it to a decimal first, okay? Here's my suggestion, and this works with lots of them, but not all of them, okay? So the quickest way would be to convert this so it has a denominator of 100, okay? 100 is a super easy denominator to work with because it directly translates over to decimals, and percent super quickly, and I'm going to show you how that works. So if I want a denominator of 100, I need to think to myself, what do I multiply 10 by to get that 100? It's 10. So 10 times 10 gives me 100. And if I multiply by 10 for the denominator, I also have to multiply it by the numerator, and I get 70. Okay, so let's fast forward here to decimal. How do I convert 70 over 100 as a decimal? Well, this can be read as 70/100ths. How do I write 70/100ths? I would write it like that. 0.70. That means 70 hundredths. Okay, this is the hundredths place. That would be 70 hundredths, and that's what it would look like. Now, technically, I don't need that zero on there. That would be 7/10, and that's the original problem, 7/10. So anytime we have a base of 10 or a multiple of 10, makes it easier. The reason why I put it over 100, though, is because this makes it super easy to convert into a percentage. Percentage is percent. Okay, cent means 100, so that means I have 70%. So that's why I like putting it over 100, because it's per 100 and it's 70 out of 100. That just means 70%. Okay, now the ratio part. Let's talk about what this means. This just means if I have 7/10 here, that means to make a whole, I would need another 3/10. Okay, so if you notice, 7/10 plus 3/10, that would give me a total of 10 out of 10, okay? The 7 plus 3. Now, the ratio means if we have 7/10 out of 3 and 3/10, okay, two separate fractions, what would be the ratio between those? It would be a 7:3 ratio. So I just take away the denominator here, and this becomes a 7:3 ratio. That's how I do the ratio part. So if I had 7... let's just say, to keep it easy, 7 out of 10 students are boys, then that means that we'd have 7 that are boys and 3 that are girls, so that'd be 7:3 ratio. That's how that works, okay? So that's part to part for the ratio. Now let's go ahead and just keep going with these other forms. So number 2, we have 1/5, and again, we want a denominator of 100. I think that's the easiest, so I know I need to multiply by 20. So I'll multiply by 20, and I get 20 out of 100. So that means I'm going to write it as 0.20. That's that 20 directly translates over there, okay? Now, that's just going to be 20% for me. So I know it's 20%. And if I have 1/5 over here, that means I need 4/5 to make it a complete. So what does that mean? That means it's a 1:4 ratio. Again, that's what I'm doing for each one of these. If I have 1/5, then that means I have 4/5 over there, and that means my ratio is 1:4 for my part-to-part ratio, okay? So that's how I do that. Let's go ahead and do number 3. Number 3 is fairly simple, just because it's half, and half is an easy one, so we can multiply this by 50. Multiply the top by 50, I get 50 over 100. That's 0.50. Again, you don't need the 0 at the end of these, so you can get rid of them, but I like keeping it there just because it makes it easy to do the percent, so I know that's 50%. If I have half of something, that means I have 50%. And if I have didn't mean to scoop down. So if I have 1/2 there, that means I'm going to have 1/2 over here, and that means I have a 1:1 ratio. If I have half the class boys, half the class girls, then that means I have a 1:1 ratio of boys to girls, okay? That's how that would work. All right, now, this one does not work with having the base of 100, and that's actually going to be more common than you think. Okay, there's only a certain few numbers that can get to 100 fairly easily. So 8 is one of those that you can't multiply by a whole number to get to. So here's my suggestion. Anytime you have something like 8, you're just going to go ahead and do long division. So I wrote it in blue. We have 5 divided by 8, and 8 goes into 5 0 times. You can see the process I used. Okay, if you need help on long division, I have a whole bunch of problems, videos, and worksheets that I've done to show you how to do long division, but eventually we get 0.625, and we're going to write that 0.625 right here. So you can see it wasn't a very obvious number for us to get 62.5 above here, okay? So that's why long division is, you can always use long division. The method I've been doing earlier is not always something you can do. Now, what do I do for percent? The most common mistake I see is 625%. That's not what that means. What it means is 62.5%, okay? Because this is the thousandths place. This is the hundredth place, okay? So over here we had 62.5 out of 100. That means it has to be 62.5%. So be careful. If you get to the thousands place right here, you need to make sure that's a decimal. Anything after that is going to be a decimal with a percentage. Okay, the only ones that you don't have a decimal is the hundredths place. Okay, and again, what are we going to do for the ratio here? Well, this one's not too bad. Not as hard it was for the long division. We have 5 to 8. That means we're going to have 3 to 8 over here. And that means we're going to have a 5 to 3 ratio between those two things. Okay, so that's the basics of this. You can do the same long division for 1/8. Maybe just do a couple more, some you haven't seen yet. So with this one, I'm going to have to multiply this by 25, okay, to get to 100. I like that method the best just because it's super easy. And that means I have 75 over 100, which is 0.75. And then I have 75%. And then I'm going to have 3 out of 4, and then 1 out of 4 to get to the whole. And that's, so 3 plus 1 would equal that 4. Remember, the two denominators need to add up to that. The two numerators need to add up to that denominator, essentially, okay? And then we have this one. Let's go ahead and do one more, the 21. I need to multiply that by 5, which gives me 55 over 100. That gives me 0.55, and then that means it's going to be 55%. This one's going to be, I have 11, and what do I need to add to get to 20? I still need 9, so that's 11 to 9 ratio. If you need any of these other problems done, make sure to leave a comment. I have lots of other videos from Math Drills, so make sure to check those out in my Math Drills playlist, and I look forward to seeing you next time right here on Wes Explains Best.